Today we're going to be looking at functions and the definition of a function, so let's get started. A function is having an input into an equation called a function rule, which when solved will have exactly one output value to each input value. And function notation is a short way for writing the function of an input or the output. Okay, so what does all that mean? Well, function notation is the short way of writing a function. So anyway, we call that the f of x, f standing for function of x, which is your y, your output. So your function of your x is your y output. Okay, so you can put something in for x into an equation and find out what your function of that x is, which is your y. Let's get started with some examples. All right, let's look at this equation here. Y equals the function of x, which is 0.25 times x. Okay, so if I put 1 in for x into this equation, my function of x, or my y, is 1 times 0.25. So y is going to be 0.25. If I put in a 0 for x, well then my y is also going to be 0. If I put in a 2 for x, 2 times 0.25 times 2, 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 1 makes 5, 2 behind the decimal, so I move over twice and put my decimal here in my answer. So 2 times x will be 0.5 as my answer. Okay, well, let's try a negative number. Let's put in negative 1 for x. Okay, so negative 1 for x, negative 1. My function, or my y, would come out to negative 0.25. Okay, so I think you get the idea of how this works. When you have an equation which is got a variable x in it, then when you just try any number in for x, you see what your outcome is for your y, or your function of your x, which is what we call y, the function of x. So let's do another example, and this time we'll graph our second equation. Okay, so here's our function of x, which is our y. And it's a very simple one, 2x. Okay, so if I put in, say, 0 for x, 0 times 2 would be 0 for y. If I put in 1 for x, 1 times 2 is 2, y is going to be 2. If I put in 2 for x, 2 times 2 is 4. So y is 4.